of experience, you know, with rental agreements, right? They've been here, done that. And so they probably had to fight on many occasions, but those are the kind of individuals you need to be thinking about. Like, on one hand, they fully disclose, but on the other hand, they're probably going to be nickel and diming you at the end of the lease, right? Not only are you not going to get your interest back, you're not likely to get your full security deposit back. So understand, these are some of the things you need to be thinking about, obviously, when you're renting a property. I mean, price is one thing, location is one thing, you know, how nice it looks is something else, but your relationship with your landlord is going to be huge.
Is there any rule or law that says the landlord has to notify you every time they're showing your apartment?
Yeah.
Yes.
See, the lease said that they could come at any time. The lease that occurs from that side.
What state was this in?
It was here. It was like down the street.
No, it's not. New Hampshire is really winter friendly. It's,
well, and most states are, and you know why that is? Because they have a lot of slumlords all over the place,
yeah.
Right? So the rules are crazy. The laws, I mean, I do evictions. The laws are crazy. One year, it'll be all about the landlords. You can throw a tenant out at will, right? And next year, you can't throw a tenant out unless you give them enough money to move into another place, right? So it's all these extremes, right? You go from one extreme to the next. But what you're talking about is you have a right to privacy. Under every lease, under every rental agreement, you have a right to privacy. People can't just go in and out of your house at will. The federal laws protect against that. The state laws generally protect against that. And not only the state laws and federal laws, a lot of times you have a lot of local, what they call, what's the word for them? They're not statutes, ordinances that protect against landlords being able to freely walk in and out of your home. So even if they put it in a lease, and even if you sign it, they can't do it by law. You understand? So there's some things that even if it's in the contract, the law in and of itself strikes that section. They can't go into a court of law and say, well, it was right there in the lease. You understand? So, I mean, that's something to think about. And if it happens, that's the kind of thing that you can technically call the police and say, hey, this person's trespassing. Right? That being said, the other side of the lease agreement is, or the lease situation is, you failing to pay your rent. What do you think is going to happen if you fail to pay your rent on time? Maybe?
Well, here it's maybe.
Huh?
Here it's maybe. One of my housemates, they're a couple and they have a cabin, and it turns out that they rented it to some professional con artists who know the laws and working the system, and they technically evicted them in December, and they're still going through the system. And apparently, the Hanover prosecutors know about them. They have this spiel where that the husband and wife kind of make like they're a battered woman. She's a battered woman. There's a law that you can't kick out a battered woman, so there's 2 inactive restraining orders that would still eventually activate to try to stay there longer. So. Well,
and that's interesting you say that, and it's interesting you're saying prosecutors, because normally when you go into an eviction court, there is no prosecutor, right? There's the attorneys for either side, if there is an attorney on both sides. So sometimes the landlord will have an attorney. You don't have to have an attorney, right? So the landlord can have an attorney. The tenant can have an attorney, right? So you got the 2 attorneys backing it out. But if the prosecutors are involved, that suggests that there's some criminal activity going on, and perhaps fraud, and is what you basically.
Bad checks.
Yeah, that's what you're describing.
Yeah, well,
that's what you're describing.
Yeah.
It's some level of fraud, and the prosecutors are on notice.
Yeah.
And not for nothing, I go to court. I had one lady I evicted a few months back, and since then I've been to eviction court and seen her twice. She got my client really good. She paid him, I think it was $40 for the last few days of the month. Assured him she would pay him by the first of the month. Never made another payment for 3 or 4 months until we finally got her out of there. Then she left, and she took his washing machine and dryer with her. So, you know, there are professional rental con artists, I guess you can call them, right? That happens. Well, to your point, yes, you probably will get kicked out or evicted.
Eventually.
Eventually. there's a process for that. And they have to evict you, right? Because they can't just come in and take your things out and put them on the sidewalk.
Yeah,
Because guess what? That's against the law.
yeah. There's also a rule that you can't turn off utilities for anyone as well. If
That's
you
right.
find out $1,000 a day, you can turn off.
That's right. Because that's how some landlords try to evict you without having to go through the process. They try to make it so uncomfortable that you leave automatically. But in Connecticut, you can actually go to jail for that kind of thing. You can actually go to jail for going into someone's home and pulling their things out. You can also go to jail for changing the locks. Right? What's your name, ma'am? Deidre? So Deidre, you go off to school one day, you come back home and you go, it doesn't work, you'll be angry. But if you call the police and it's found out that your landlord changed those locks and failed to give you a key, your landlord can go to jail. That's what they call an illegal lockout. And that thing that you're talking about with turning off the electricity and everything like that, that's essentially what that is.
Yeah.
You're basically evicting the person without going through the process. You're making it so uncomfortable that they can't stay there. You follow that?
Yeah.
So these, I mean, Sinead did a good job of explaining all that, but these are things that, you know, you may want to think about when you're leasing an apartment.
Yeah. It also kind of means that when you have people that don't pay the rent, that you still have to pay the utility bill, even though they're not paying anything.
Well, and that's the flip side, right? There's one side, it's one thing to be a tenant. It's something else to be the person that has to pay for this property while that tenant's sitting there not paying, like you're supposed to, or pouring bleach all over your carpets, right? Destroying your place. I mean, I mean, I've been a landlord. And I've been in that situation where my tenant wasn't paying, but at the end of the day, I still have to go through the legal process to get them out. I can't just simply throw them out, despite how much money it might be costing me in utilities, mortgage payments, and everything else, right? Now, and I don't have a little clicker thing to do whatever. What this is? How do you use it? I mean, I never used one of these things before. I usually draw, you know, a tablet, a little chisel thing. But the next thing is, you know, to the point of the rentals and everything else, we want to talk about, what do you call it, emergency funds? What are emergency funds? What is that all about?
You're unemployed or you lose your job or
Right.
stuff happens.
Things happen, right? So that's what you have emergency funds for. Now, on two different levels, you know, emergency funds, when we're talking about rentals, that's one thing. I mean, obviously, when we're saying emergency funds, we're saying money that you can utilize in the event that you had a bad day or something, like you had to drink a lot that week because you got an F on your exam and you use up all your money buying booze. You got your emergency fund to help pay your rent, right? Utilities, what else? Some other stuff, right? Gas bill, car payment, all kinds of stuff, right? Emergency fund. Now, usually, I like to suggest for my clients and anyone else that they have at least 6 months reserves. Right? You know what that means, Deidre? Your name, sir?
Matt,
Matt? What does that mean?
6 months reserves.
Maybe you saved up 6 months worth of your salary.
If you could do that.
That's not a lot though, so.
No, that ain't, well, but you're almost in the right place. 6 months of whatever your monthly expenses are, right? So, assuming you know what that is, right? So, your name, sir, with a burrito in your mouth, I'm gonna make you talk while you're eating.
Dan?
Dan? So Dan, so I got Dan, Matt. Dan has to save not only the $700, but he also has to save the $85 for electricity. He also has to save, what else do you have in there, Dan? Gas, maybe? What do you
No,
gas?
so-
Everything's electric?
Oh, what do you mean? Yes,
Oh,
in terms of heat?
that's what, at my house, we have gas.
I think it's oil. Yeah.
Oil, all right, so oil, right, whatever it is. Gas for your car, right?
Right.